in radio, and let's see, I'm trying to get everything locked up here. Situated. There we go. We're also live on Facebook, and we have our guest on the show, LT, and you pronounce your full name.
Letitia. Thank you.
And she is the author of Half Breed, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
But there was something else after that. I couldn't get the whole thing on the banner. It's Half Breed and...
Yes, Half Breed Finding Unity in a Divided World.
Right. And this is how it happened. I was on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm scrolling, and I saw the picture of you announcing your book and all,
Yes.
and I had to think, oh, wait a minute, did I miss something? And I immediately inboxed her and asked her if she would mind being on the show to share her book. And we touched on it a little bit when we was on the phone as well. And I want you to share a little bit of what took place and what inspired you to write it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was probably late, almost the end of 2017. And around that time, as many of us know, there was a lot of devastation in the States, really. We had hurricanes, we had fires, we had national disasters going on, but we also had a lot of division going on in the political arena, and then also it was around the time of the Stan versus Neil going on in the NFL. So there was a lot of divisive conversation going on between family, friends, co-workers, Facebook, people were unfriending friends, family members, and God really started to stir my heart at that moment in time that there was something He wanted to speak to His people.
Now, I know you shared with me some of let's say incidents or issues or things you went through coming up by your parents and all, by one being one race or the other race. That's also included when inspired you to write this, correct?
Absolutely. So I'm biracial, my mother is white, my father is black, and they did such an amazing job growing up of making sure that I loved both sides and empathy and compassion and embrace both cultures that I was a part of. And so when I came about writing the book, it came natural that really it was almost a diary of my story of being biracial and being a part of, two different cultures and embracing both those cultures at the same time. There was Thanksgiving times where I was used to eating pumpkin pie, and other times I was used to eating sweet potato pie, right? And so the story goes into the Samaritan, who's also a half-breed, and so it was only natural that the title was Half-Breed.
So how did y'all solve that problem, pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie?
We ate both, baby.
I was like Gary Owens, when he said he went over his, he's married to a black lady.
He got killed.
Yeah. He got some pumpkin pie, they all looked at him like,
What is that?
he said, I didn't know. So even some of the things I'm taking, you did also went through some things while you're going to school as well, coming up, correct?
Yeah.
How did you handle that?
Well, and I pointed back to my father. My mother and father, again, always reminded us, even when I was writing the book and I told my mom the name of the book, she said, Tisha, because my family in my youth calls me Tisha.
Okay.
And so she said, Tisha, I want you to know that you are not a half-breed, you're a whole breed.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because that's how they raised me.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't you're not good enough, or you're biracial, or you're white or black. It was you're a whole person. You're both. You're mixed, and we really embraced both of those growing up. So there were times where I went to schools where it was population was mostly all white when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and when I lived in the South, I went to schools where it was all black. And so you heard the comments both ways, both sides, but you also heard the compliments both sides. So when I went to all white schools, I heard I love your tan. And when I went to all black schools, I heard I love your hair, and so but it was really the best in of both worlds as well many times also.
Now, I experienced going to school mixed, military mixed school, but then I also got a chance and privilege of going to a high school of all blacks,
Yes.
where you can count on one hand how many whites were there.
Wow.
And I saw the difference You know, that was one of the things that I was thinking of, that our children got to experience where it was more diverse than just one particular race. Because when I was going to the school where it was mixed, yeah, it was all right, it was cool, nobody really, really messed with you. But then when I went to the all black school, it was almost to the point I had to prove myself at that school. But here's the unique thing about the all black school. We sung in the all black choir, but it was directed by a Caucasian lady, and her name was Miss Karowski. And when she got hired at North Division High School, she sat down with other black musicians and learned to play gospel. But her purpose was, she said, I'm going to take our all black choir and teach them more than just gospel. So she taught us the Latin, she taught us the different songs of anthems and things like that. And then she took it a step further. She took the all black choir, took us to all white churches to perform. And we're talking to the Lutheran, the Catholic churches, the Pentecostals, all white. And she said the reason why she did that, because she wanted them to see that black people just don't sing gospel. So we started singing the Kyries and the Latins, and it was blowing them away. So then she took it a step further. She would take us to go to the northern part of Wisconsin and do live-in with white families. And then during the second half of the school semester, she had their choir come to our city and live with us. And so it was teaching us a different type of cultures. And the lady I work with right now, Coach Lockman, we were sitting down talking about that. We believe that if we would take time to learn each other's culture, we believe that can really be a defeat over racism. Because when we stayed with them, I was the only black guy in that family, in that white family. So I'm sitting at the table, and matter of fact, that was my first time being introduced to eat blueberry pie. Because we didn't eat blueberry. And it was good, and the cat jumped on the table. I was like, what the heck? And so then we lived with this one Caucasian guy. But it showed us another angle of how families live, a different race. And then when they came to our city, they got a chance to see another angle. I never forget, I had a big guy named Rex. He stayed with me. And I'm about to go comical on in a minute. But he asked the question, he said, dude, is there anything y'all do here for excitement? You know, I live in the heydays, the farms and stuff. We don't do nothing out there. And so my friend Mike, he's a 10th grader. Now he's 10th grade, and he knew a security guard at this bar. Oh God. We're all in high school, and the security guard let us get in. We're in the bar, liquor and everything. We're not supposed to be in there at all, but the security guard got us in. So we come out. Who do we see coming up the street? Miss Karowski. Because she said if she sees us doing anything else, we're getting suspended. So we all hid behind a big, huge bank of snow. They jumped in my car, locked the door. I'm trying to get back in the bar. It locked. I had to hide behind this thing. But long story short, when Rex left, he shared how much of an impact it was to finally to stay a couple days with a different race. And so that made it easier for me through life to know how to deal with diverse. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And to hear what you're saying, what you went through about your hair and your skin tone and things like that, I was like, man, they had to be, it messes with your head, because now I see that they have a show called Blackish and Grownish, and now they got a new one coming out, I think it's called Mix or something like that. It's dealing with her when she came up. And when the guy said, what you mix with? She said, what is mix? You know, because it's new to them, it's a new area. And when you said that, I thought about the show that's coming up. So let me ask you this. What type of response have you been getting from the book?
It's a great question. Surprisingly or not surprisingly, I have received an amazing response from the book. Really from both communities, honestly. In fact, doors have been opening left and right, you know, as far as north is where I live in McKinney to as far as south in Cedar Hill. And because the book really addresses wherever you're standing in that equation, whether you are, you know, flat out racist or just ignorant, or even someone who needs to forgive, not have a victim mentality. And so, you know, we all have areas of brokenness in us. And so, you know, when these topics of discrimination or prejudice or oppression or injustice happens, you know, it triggers us, especially if we've been traumatized or experienced these things. And it really addresses really whatever position you may have or your experience that you may have, and really how are you made whole? How can God make you whole? How can Jesus make you whole?
Was there any part of the book that was really, really hard for you to write? Like you really like brought back some old
Scars.
memories, yeah, scars.
That's a really great question. To be honest, I felt the hardest part to write were the stories of my family, right? Because one, you want to honor your family members, but as I was writing the stories on both of my grandmothers, one grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was born and raised in East Germany. My paternal grandmother, on my dad's side, she was born and raised in Central Texas, in rural areas of Texas during times of the most segregated times in the South. And so, you know, I have one grandmother who overcame division as she escaped through the Berlin Wall during the times of Hitler. And she snuck back in to sneak her mother out, smuggle her mother out through a divided wall, a wall that was intentionally there to divide and keep people separated. But then on the other side, I have a grandmother who raised 15 children in the segregated South during a very divided time as well. And so the two of them overcoming and pushing through and persevering through really the division that both of them experienced because of what they did, the legacy they then produced was a granddaughter in me who would then go on to write a book about racial reconciliation. It brought me to tears, you know, that none of us should ever give up in the race that we have to run, and what a privilege, you know, had either of them given up, right, had either of them given up, I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
I have a question. Was there any pushback from your paternal grandmother? You know, when the other side was getting ready to come as one, your mom and dad?
I think that both sides, knowing what they experienced at the time, you know, had their own preconceived biases. That said, when my mother showed up with a grandbaby that looked like me, you know, she absolutely embraced my mother and me and my mother's family. So, you know, and like you said, is that when you get to know someone and you have experience and relationship with them, it overcomes walls. Really, the walls are broken when you actually create relationship and have relationship with people.
You know, I think that's unique too, because even like my coworker, she's Caucasian, and what happened, the person that was working with just quit, and so I had got interviewed, and so when finally we met, she goes, man, I was praying to God that whoever you bring here has a sense of humor, has a heart for you, and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
I said, oh, that's funny. He said, why? I said, I was praying for the same thing. Because if you was like, just out there, I'm out. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to be here.
Yes.
And it turned out to be, we make a good team. And the thing of it is, you know, she even to the point of, I love the story she shared when she went to college. She roommated with a bunch of other black girls. There was only black white girl there, and one of them was from Crenshaw.
Oh wow!
And told her, I don't like you.
Yes.
I don't want no part of you, and don't even talk to me. Wow! And so the way Tangi is, she said, I heard all that, and then I came right back at her and said, you know what? You're gonna like me. We're gonna be friends, whether you don't like it or not. She said, long story short, by the time we got close to them, they were ready to graduate, they were the best friends.
Yes.
You know, because like you said, it's that wall.
Yes.
You know, you break that wall, and once it's torn down, man, you'll see the freedom of it.
Absolutely.
And you see God moving more much freely doing that.
Yes.
Okay. We'll go to a track, and then we'll be right back, and we're gonna I call it TNu, so I'm just sorry. We're asking more questions to get off it this morning, and also share how people can get your book as well.
Sounds great.
Cool. This is Jill Scott. Bless.